You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun. Hey everybody, it's Doug Collins. Welcome to the podcast. Glad to have you with us again. If you have any questions, comments, or anything you'd like or would like to see more of here on the podcast, go to the DougCollinsPodcast.com, hit that email button, and let us know what you think. Or if you have any place you'd like for me to come, it's also a great place to get in touch with me for speaking engagements and others across the country. Please let me know. I get a lot of requests, and we will do the best we can to fulfill those. So please keep that in mind as we go forward. Also, this is Monday. It's the day before the big debate. We're going to talk about that today. I want to run just a little bit. I'm not going to do a whole lot pre. I want to lay out some what I think will be the things to look for in this. And then Chip Lake and I'll be back on Wednesday to do a full breakdown of the debate. And so be ready. Set your notifications for Wednesday morning. Looking forward to being back with you also on that day as well. So look, a lot of things from this weekend coming back. There's things that are tightening up. We're going to talk about polling a little bit. A lot of stuff for you here. Just a good, quick, short packed of show on Monday. Welcome to it. Right after the break, we'll be right back. You might have heard Mike Lindell and MyPillow no longer have the support of the box stores or the shopping channels as the way they used to. They've been part of the cancel culture, so they want to pass the savings directly on to you by having a $25 extravaganza. When Mike started MyPillow, it was just one product company. With the help of his dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products. Some of you may not even know about that. So to get the word out, I want to invite my listeners to check out the $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-pillow use My Pillows are just $25. My Pillow sandals, $25. Their 6-pack of towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels. You guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the My Pillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. All orders over $75 will see free shipping too. This amazing offer won't last long, so go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Collins, that's COLLINS, or call 800-986-3994 today. That's promo code Collins. Hey, inflation's at a 40-year high. The stock market looks more uncertain than ever. The new central bank digital currency is on its way and could be the government's ultimate surveillance tool against Americans. It looks like the government is playing games with your savings and retirement. So what are you going to do to help protect yourself? Did you know that you can have physical gold and silver into your IRA or 401k with zero tax or penalties? Millions of Americans are doing this right now for protection, and you should think about it too. The company I trust and recommend is Preserve Gold. They will go all over your options and make sure the process of acquiring precious metals is simple and easy. So if you're looking to help protect your retirement with a trustworthy company, request your free investment guide from the experts at Preserve Gold. Preserve Gold is accredited by the Better Business Bureau, and they have hundreds of 5-star reviews, so you know that you're in good hands. Just text Collins, COLLINS, to 50505. And an exclusive offer for my listeners, they'll get up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualifying purchase on a retirement account rollover. So don't wait. Text Collins to 50505 today and get your free gold and silver investment guide and take the first step. Again, text Collins to 50505 to get your free guide from the good people at Preserve Gold. All right, we're back here on the podcast. First off, let's talk about some stuff. The race is, you have heard me talk about this race for a long time now, is I always have been one to say this race can be close, and I think it will be close. I think it's going to it's useless in many ways to set up a scenario that right now either side could say that this is a blowing out. Now, can both sides maybe point to areas where they think that they're going to widen the lead coming up? Yes. And I think Trump is in a much better position. Donald Trump's in a much better position to do that than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris cannot do this in a way that has as many routes. Okay. And let me just say this why. Before we get to the debate, let's talk about basics here. When they kicked Biden out, they gained all the momentum from all the pent-up frustrations of Joe Biden and not knowing, if he was going to be able to speak coherently, if he was going to shuffle off stage, if he was going to fall, if he couldn't walk up the main stairs of Air Force One. I mean, it was just a bad situation. We've talked about it before. I mean, the Democrats held $500 million out on the table before he got out, and then all of a sudden dumped it all into the Harris campaign. So you saw 5-6 weeks of glowing everything. I mean, I've never seen. I mean, if a Republican candidate tried to do what the Democrats did with Vice President Harris, they would every day it would be a watch. CNN would start the counter. MSNBC would have a counter. How many days till Donald Trump actually speaks to the media? How many days? And Trump goes out and speaks to them every day. They don't allow. I mean, they allow Harris to never have an interview, and then do one with Dana Bash and think that that's fine, even though she had a helper there with her, and didn't really answer the questions. And even Dana Bash said she's got to do better answering the questions. I thought that was really interesting. If you didn't catch that, there was an interview of Bash just like the end of last week, and the question was asked about what are you going to do? And it was really sort of damning to Harris when she said, look, I'll ask once, I'll ask twice, but if you ain't asking by the third time, then that's your answer. And for her to say that, what she's implying is no, you didn't ask the question the first time, you didn't answer the second time, third time, then you're not going to answer the question. And she said, I'll just move on at that point. And I understand that from a perspective of a reporter. If they're not going to answer the questions, then we're not going to just continually beat the horse, so to speak. But yet I've watched them do that to Donald Trump over and over when they don't like his answer. When they don't like his answer, or they think that he's being deceitful, then they just keep on and on and on. She never did that with Harris or Waltz for the matter. So as you look at this going forward, the question becomes, what has she gained? So we're having the first polling since Labor Day, came out this weekend. New York Times Siena poll. This is the one the liberals drool over. This is the one that they always think is the greatest thing in the world. And it came back with something I don't think they were expecting. And that was that nationally, Trump up one, but underneath was an even more concerning numbers. And if you're a listener to the Doug Collins podcast, you've heard me say it, you've heard Pollster say it, you've heard Chip say it, you've heard all of us who talk politics, that the national polls in these races are not where you need to focus. This is not where you need to be, because the national polls are not going to decide this election. Now, they decide sentiment. They'll decide, where people are leaning. And I'll use the example, and I'm fair here. I do believe the national polls were indicating how bad Biden was doing before Biden was pushed out. Okay. And that's where you use the national polls. You look at it for sentiment purposes. You look at it for mood of country. You look at it because the situation is such that popularity vote is going to center in the larger liberal parts of this country, and are going to skew many times these, overall look from the national perspective. Because at the end of the day, there are about 40 states that have voted. I think it's 40 states that have voted the same way in the presidential side for going back 20, 30 years. I need to look that up, but I heard it just the other day, and it's astonishing to me. But think about that. 40 states who no president has actually had to worry about for the most part, and almost 40 years. And that means that resources, think about this for a second, just, ponder this, make your head hurt. I mean, it's almost like trying to think about why Will Levis can't throw a pass, or, forward, if you watch football this weekend, or why the Panthers are a dumpster fire. These are all questions that really hurt your brain when you try to think about it. And I'm trying to make light of this, but when you think about the facts that these $500 million. The Trump team, 300 plus, 400 plus million dollars, counting outside money, are going to be concentrated in 10 states. And some of those states are bigger states, but some of them are not bigger states. Georgia is the 10th, right at 9th, 10th largest state in the country population-wise. You got Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada, throw in North Carolina. I mean, that money is being spent in just horrific amounts in these states. You're saturating airwaves, you're saturating digital, you're saturating. For those of us in Georgia, if I did not get on an average of 15 to 20 text, tweets, or text, emails, or ads, and the ads are just the ones that may like pop up on your phone stuff. If I didn't get those a day, I would think something is wrong. And I seem to be on every list because I get the Trump ads, I get the Harris ads. I mean, they're all buying lists because they're so desperate to spend the money that they have that this is what they're doing. So you're saturating these jurisdictions. And it's really been said, this New York Times Siena poll actually made it interesting that Trump was up 1. Great. I'm glad he's up 1. I want to see what's happening in the battleground states. And it showed that Trump was ahead, or they were all tied. That's a good sign. If you're looking at it from a Trump perspective, it can't be a good sign that if you've had 7 weeks of hype, 7 weeks of pumping you up, 7 weeks of nobody complaining about the fact that you're not doing interviews, and nobody complaining about the fact that you are articulated no coherent policy perspectives, nobody complaining that you picked one of the most liberal governors in the country, who has pushed the radical agenda of the left when it comes to transgender and children and the issues of COVID lockdowns and things like this. This is just, you've had everything in your power and everything going against Donald Trump in the sense of nobody, everything J.D. Vance, his running mate, said they were scrutinizing, they were making up stuff, and nobody cared. And if all you can get to is down 1 or tied, then you really, really have to think about where you're at. It shows that there is a dislike in this electorate that can only right now be summed up into the partisan sides. Now, there's also several other things in that race that I think needs to be discussed. One, and Kellyanne Conway talks about this, and I give credit. We've talked about it. Everybody wants to talk about the gender gap in American politics. It's going to be the largest gender gap ever. And they liberals only talk about it in terms of Donald Trump's appeal amongst suburban women. And there's 11-point differential there. But nobody wants to talk about the fact that there's a 17-point differential in male turnout for Donald Trump as opposed to Harris. So in actuality here, if you really wanted to look at the gender gap, it's why are Democrats losing male voters so much, and specifically African American male voters and others? Why are they losing those votes? Nobody talks about the male gender gap that's going on the Democratic side. Now, granted, women have far more propensity to vote, and we've seen this happen year over year, but there's a realigning and a shifting, and we've talked about it a little bit here on the podcast before, and I think that's the one thing that's going to be carrying Donald Trump, I think, to victory. And if this is where this leads, it's going to carry him to victory because the people are wanting something that they can look back and say was real. And they can look back during Donald Trump's time, and they knew gas prices were lower. They knew that food prices were lower. They knew that travel was lower. They knew that their border was being worked on and being safe. That people were being deported. They didn't see the drugs on the streets like we're seeing. The fentanyl coming across our borders. They sensed a world that was not in constant wars. Now, they may not have liked him. They may not have liked his personality, but they also recognize that if I had a choice, here in a country that is secure, opportunities were better, and I was paying less for these basic things that are now hurting me, they want to go back to something like that. The poll actually showed that 60% of those polled want something new. They don't want to continue in the same vein that they've had. Now, think about this. In the last 20 years, you roughly sort of look at this. You go 8 years of Obama, 4 years will be of Biden Harris, which that makes 12. And you had 4 years of Trump, which is 16. You're getting ready for 4 more. They say, do you want these 4 to look like the last 16? And in which you have the Democratic Party's only answer to that is that Trump's the problem. Well, they had 8 years before Trump. They've had 4 years after Trump, and everything is still Donald Trump's problem. People aren't buying that. They'll take it up to a certain amount, but they're not buying that load of manure. It just ain't working. And now, late last night, she dumps her policy platforms out on the internet about, after hours, after, during football Sundays and a day before the debate, so to speak. And it's all platitudes. Let's have an opportunity economy. We're going to make everybody feel good. If we were back in the Depression era, it was, chicken in every pot. I mean, it was just, we'll give you. It was just pandering. And this is the thing with this poll pointed out. With people wanting new, they want something that they can believe in. And I believe, as I said on this podcast, and I've said it on interviews for almost a year now, it's going to come down to the fact of, at the end of the day, who do I want in the White House? Do I want to continue the same path that I've been on now for 3.5, 4 years that has been awful, whether it be Biden or Harris, and Harris is now the face of it? Or do I want to go back to something that actually helped me, help my job, help my future, help my family, help my community? And I think that's going to be a really big picture, which turns us to the debate itself. For all that argument about the rules of this debate, it's not a debate. This is a question answer session. This is simply a moderator asking questions and allowing one or the other to follow up and then asking another question. They don't really have an opportunity to get into specifics or call each other out. And the moderator's definitely not going to call out Harris, and yet they'll try to fact check Trump. And so the question is how does this play out for tomorrow night? I think, well, number one, if you're honest about this, Harris has to come out and show some grasp of policy and some grasp of the realities of government. For those independents who may not want to vote for Donald Trump, but they're conservative in many ways, it's her opportunity to continue this force-fed lie that she's a moderate, that she wants to do good things, that she wants to, keep a more centrist position, which is, as we just said a few minutes ago, Bernie Sanders blew that up, this weekend on the Sunday shows. But that's all she can hope for. Now, the interesting thing about whether you like Donald Trump or not in this debate, he doesn't have to become something he's not. He's running on the same things he's run on almost constantly since 2016. And that is deregulation. That is making us energy independent. That is, working to have a strong presence overseas, but not committing troops to endless conflicts. I mean, these are the kind of things that he doesn't have to change about. There's no flip-flopping here. And Harris has the problem of flip-flopping. Harris has the problem of one day saying I'll ban fracking, and one day I'll, be no internal combustion engine cars, I think it was, or something, that effect. Or you have, the border is not the problem. It's the other issue. She's flip-flopping. And with Sanders and others are saying she's doing this for political purposes, it proves out everything that all of us have known about her from day one. So the first thing I want to look at is, how does she look? How does she come across in this debate? She's never debated Donald Trump. In fact, for some indication is she's never met Donald Trump. So that will be an interesting scene, because Donald Trump has a commanding presence on that stage. After tomorrow, he will have done 7 public or televised debates for president, more than any other candidate in history. 7. So the lights aren't going to surprise him. What would be good is if, just like in the Joe Biden debate, when he see how Harris was going to play, and after the first answer that Joe Biden gave, you could tell this was going to be a bad night for Joe Biden. And Donald Trump just sort of sat back. And I had a friend of mine who was doing some work here at the house actually talk about this, that when he just sort of sat back and watched Biden implode, people responded to that. And one of the best lines of the night was, when asked about what something Joe Biden says, I don't even know what he said there at the end, and I don't think he does either. I mean, that was one of the best lines. It was that's a line from being on stage. That's a line from knowing debates. It's a line from being able to communicate. And I think that's very important in tomorrow night. So one, Harris has got to show that she's not incompetent. She tries to show that she has some grasp of issues. And if she's trying to, she'll try to just blame everything on Donald Trump. Donald Trump simply has to come in and basically ask the proverbial question, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And then just continue to make Harris own the Harris administration. If they want to get rid of Joe Biden, fine, but now they got Harris. Harris is there and was said the last person in the room. She was the one giving advice. She was the one there. So the first thing, if I was Donald Trump, you would want to force her back into saying, you've said all of these things are too bad. Why have y'all not started on it before now? And you say you can start on it the first day in the White House. The other issue that is developing, and I think in this debate tomorrow night, will be how much the questions hit a wider range of topics. I'll be interested to see, are they going to stick to her sweet spots more of what she's comfortable talking with, whether it be abortion rights and women's issues, or are they going to be more of a conversation on economics? I mean, a great question that they could both debate back and forth is, the Harris plan to overcome the economy and the things going on in the economy. Are they in a position to where these are answers that people will accept? And if they're not answers that people will accept, will Donald Trump be able to capitalize on and show that? So I think, look, they're both going to be anxious. The big thing would be for Donald Trump is if he has the opportunity to frustrate her with a response or to call out an error that she has, does she revert back to the old Vice President Harris word salad, which at the end of a minute and a half conversation, nobody knows what she's saying. And I think that's going to be the biggest, look ahead here as we go through this over the next, really a little over 24 to 36 hours. But we're going to have a complete recap of this on Wednesday morning with Chip. Before we go today, though, today is Monday, September the 9th, and we are 2 days away from September 11th, 2001, the remembrance, 2024, which is the remembrance of the terror attacks on our country. And it is still amazing to me how little is actually shown, talked about, or anything else surrounding that. Actually, you can find more stories at times on the internet around December 7th and Pearl Harbor than you actually do about 9/11 in Pennsylvania and the Pentagon. I will say this. I watched football yesterday. I did get to go and see the Falcons, and that was a minor disaster. But we'll see if they get any better. Cousins decided to keep throwing it to the wrong jersey. Hopefully we'll figure that out this week in practice. But after the games got off on Fox yesterday, or CBS last night, they went to 60 Minutes. And 60 Minutes did a hour-long, basically the whole hour, on the FDNY, Fire Department of New York, and the days of around 9/11, the day it happened, and what happened and who died, and the families who have come in to take the places in these firehouses. Folks, don't forget. I know we have a chance to talk about this on the 11th, but I don't want you to forget now. If you have some chance, a moment, look that up. Look up that 60 Minutes piece. Look up some other pieces to remind you of what happens when we take our eye off the ball, when we allow our agencies to become myopic in what they do, when the security agencies and the law enforcement agencies are not communicating, and when you have an American populace that just does not take the necessary steps that it does to protect its borders, to keep its citizens safe, to keep citizens from only citizens voting in our elections, to do these kind of things, then to put emphasis on fixing the economy and growing jobs and growing businesses. That's what we have to focus on in our country. And 9/11 should always be a reminder that when we take our eye off that ball, when we take our eye off of ourselves and helping the people in this country, and we pander to terrorists, we don't have a communication system that works. Then my wife asked me just the other night, she said, Doug, do you ever worry about this happening again? I said, yes, I do, all the time. Because we got people coming through our borders that we don't know who they are. These people came through and we did know who they were, and we didn't communicate well enough before they killed thousands upon thousands of people. Why would I not be concerned now, if not a little more so, about the influx of people that we've had coming here, many from countries and areas of the world that do not like us? And you're telling me now I have to not worry about that? I don't think so. So God bless the first responders in New York, the Port Authority, the fire department in New York, the police department in New York, all of the rest, the families, all who are still, many going through health issues from 9/11. May God bless them, and around Pennsylvania and the Capitol and Pentagon area as well. May we never forget the sacrifice that they paid that morning, and that we are able to live in a country in which we are the strongest in the world. But unless we act that way, unless we are actively preventing these kind of terrorist attacks, we're prone to have them again. And I pray that doesn't happen in my lifetime or my kids' lifetime, that it never happens again. But when we take our mind off the ball and it all becomes about us, we leave ourselves vulnerable. So with that, go out there, have a great rest of Monday and Tuesday, watch the debate, and we'll be back here to all break it down on Wednesday. We'll see you then.